Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from the Las Vegas Metro Chamber. On the broadcast today, State Senator Yvanna Cancela for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
The holidays are upon us, a time of celebration, family gathering, and gratitude. There are gifts to be wrapped, feasts prepared, love shared, and memories made. Life is precious, so let us cherish each other and all that we have. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We thank you for letting us enrich your lives, and thank you for your support throughout the year. Happy holidays.
RANNV.org.
Hello, is this D&D Roofing?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
You did such a great job on my roof. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner.
Oh, can I speak to your supervisor?
Sure.
How may I help you?
I love your work. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner. We're all owners. Well, that's why at D&D we work so hard to keep your home safe and sound.
Oh, no wonder.
D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal. Local, employee-owned, here for you.
Pro Group Management is the place where companies can find workers' comp solutions that are designed to meet their specific business requirements. As regulations evolve, Pro Group takes a proactive approach to clear the path to make sure your business stays ahead of the curve. Knowing your workers' comp program is optimized, you can focus on other important matters related to your growing business. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Safety is the #1 priority for the trucking industry. Over $7 billion a year is spent on technology like this electronic eye that will apply the brakes automatically. But the most important factor for safety is the truck driver. These hardworking men and women who safely move over 70% of our nation's freight and 94% of Nevada's. We thank you because trucks move America forward.
Nevada Newsmakers tapings in Las Vegas are brought to you by the Las Vegas Metro Chamber of Commerce.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from the Las Vegas Metro Chamber. We're delighted to welcome back to the program State Senator Yvanna Cancela. She is the co-majority whip and also represents District 10. Pleasure to have you back on the program.
Good to be here, Sam.
So one of the things that you're working on, according to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, is you and Speaker Frierson are in the early stages of putting together a bill that would allow athletes that play for the state universities to make money from endorsement deals and other things. How did this come about, and what do you think your chances are of getting this through?
Well, I see it as a workers' rights issue. I think NCAA players, whether they're Heisman caliber athletes or they're competitive swimmers, for a long time have been denied an ability to share in the profits that they help universities generate. And recently, California passed a law that said athletes could use their image and likeness to make a profit. So before then, if you were a swimmer and you wanted to coach swimming lessons and market yourself as an NCAA college swimmer, you could not do that. California has now changed the law to say that you can, and as a result of that, the NCAA has changed its policy to say that college athletes can use their image and likeness. So I'm not sure whether or not Speaker Frierson and I will move forward with legislation based on what the NCAA has done, but I think we're at 9 or 10 other states that have proposed a similar kind of legislation. New York has a profit sharing model, and one of the benefits of not meeting till 2021 is that we get to look at what other states are doing. But I'm very excited the NCAA has changed its policy. It's a long time coming.
Okay, and what has been the response, if any, from the university system, from the chancellor, to this idea?
I haven't spoken to anyone at the university system. I haven't spoken to any of the coaches at our universities, but I suspect that they're carefully watching what's happened in California and are working with the NCAA to implement the changes that the organization has brought forward.
And this wouldn't involve the schools themselves paying money. This would just be companies that were utilizing them for endorsements.
That's right. It has nothing, it would not take any money from the university to the athlete, no payment or anything like that. All it said, California's law says, and what the NCAA's new policy says, is that if you're an athlete and you want to use your image and likeness through something like a sponsorship deal, you now have the ability to do that. Up until the policy change, that was not part of what athletes could do.
Well, I certainly applaud your efforts, because it seems crazy that these are giant money-making machines and the athletes are not the ones who in any way get to be the beneficiaries of it. You were one of the earliest Nevada elected officials to endorse Joe Biden. Why Joe Biden? And why endorse so early?
We have the benefit here in Nevada of having a lot of attention because we're the first in the West and arguably the most diverse early primary. So lots of candidates come in with attention and courting. And I got to speak to a number of candidates before they announced or right after they announced. And I think the Democrats have an incredible field. But when the vice president called to indicate that he was thinking about running and called to ask for advice, the way other candidates do, I interrupted him, which was a little nerve-wracking on my part. But I said, Mr. Vice President, I believe in leadership and loyalty when it comes to political leaders. I don't think anyone is better equipped to lead our country in this moment than you are, and you have done more to build our party than anyone else who's running. So whatever you need, I'm in. And I really believe that. I think that he's the kind of leader who addresses problems from a place of deep empathy. I think he has the experience to get to work on day one and start to undo the mess that has been made, not only administratively through different appointments and unfilled jobs at the executive branch, but also through showing the country what it means to be a leader of character and to be a leader of moral fortitude. I just don't think there's a better candidate than him.
You know, obviously, that there's been, accusations about Vice President Biden's closeness with women at times. Do you have any concerns about that?
I think the vice president is one of the most genuine politicians of our time, and when he sees people in pain or sees people in excitement, he's shown that empathy, not only in the way that he listens to them, but in the way that he gives his full attention. So I think people see that when they see him, and he's said before that he speaks his mind, and sometimes that gets him in trouble. And I actually think that he's precisely the kind of leader we need at this moment because he's unafraid to speak his mind.
So we've got this huge spectrum of people who are running for the Democratic nomination, but you put yourself right in the middle. This is probably the most, if not the most, moderate candidate on the Democratic side.
I don't know that it's fair to characterize Vice President Biden as a moderate. I think he's shown that he has some really progressive policy proposals.
For example?
Well, his policy on healthcare is, I think, much more progressive than people give him credit for. Because the creation of the public option would allow for the majority of people in this country to access affordable, high-quality insurance. It was what was originally part of the Affordable Care Act and was heralded as super progressive at the time, and is now being, I think, not given the caliber of attention that it deserves. And if you look at the vice president's history, he was talking about the ban on assault rifles and getting it done long before it was a popular political position. To me, that's progressive. He's issued what is, I think, an incredibly progressive climate policy that aims to take on the issue not only at a global foreign policy perspective, but at a domestic perspective. I think he just doesn't get the credit he deserves for having progressive policy ideas throughout his political career, not just now that he's running for president.
And we'll be back.
Tamarack Junction is South Reno's hotspot with over 450 of the latest slots and video games. Sully's Sports Bar, the Dining Car Restaurant, William Hill Sportsbook, and the Tamarack Steakhouse and Lounge. We're just north of the Summit Mall in South Virginia. Yeah.
Because of UMC, I'm putting my free time to good use.
Because of UMC, she keeps me on my toes.
Because of UMC and this guy, I'm here.
UMC, the highest level of care in Nevada.
Hi, I'm Eric Robnett, owner of Home Energy Experts. Has this ever happened to you?
Honey, did you remember to turn down the thermostat?
Forgetting to set the temperature? Not fun. We can help. Our new smart thermostat keeps the temperature set for your comfort all by itself.
I'm feeling hot now.
To increase your comfort, go to homeenergyexperts.com for details. That's homeenergyexperts.com.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
The Tamarack Junction Steakhouse is known for signature steaks, handcrafted cocktails, and world-class wines. Join us Thursdays and Friday nights from 4:30 to 6:30 in the Steakhouse Lounge for live music, gourmet plates, and well-priced wines, just north of the Summit Mall on South Virginia.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And we're back on Nevada Newsmakers, continuing our conversation with State Senator Yvanna Cancela, the co-majority whip. So you are not somebody who is Medicare for all.
I think Medicare for all is an indictment on our healthcare system, and I spent a lot of time fighting to figure out how we lower drug prices, because to me that's one of the biggest problems in our healthcare system. And I agree that every person should have access to high quality, affordable healthcare. I am not sold on the idea that the government is the proper administrator for that, though I do have really strong feelings against how for-profit insurance manipulates the healthcare market. I'm not sure that I'm against Medicare for all, but I'm certainly much more interested in a deeper dive on what that system could look like and how we ensure that people actually get healthcare that they can afford, but that it also works and doesn't end up being a bureaucratic mess for individuals who actually really need those services right away.
I mean, one of the things that's crazy to me is that if you're getting health insurance privately, not through an employer, that you're paying a fortune for that insurance with an extremely high deductible, and nothing is covered until you hit that deductible.
Right, and that's the problem with the way we structure insurance today, is you're actually better off if you can't afford health insurance and end up on Medicaid than you are if you're, in some cases, when you're paying into a for-profit insurer. And that to me is where it's very clear something needs to give, something needs to change. I'm just not sure that having everything under government watch, where we have everyone on a system like Medicare, is the solution.
I think the country would go bankrupt very quickly, to be honest with you, because for people who are on Medicare, they've paid into that system their entire working life. To say Medicare for all and to try and do that immediately, you have a lot of people who have paid nothing into the system, or very little. And so how could that system possibly work?
Well, and I guess for me, one of the challenges is that it feels like it lets for-profit insurers and every other entity within our healthcare system that has grossly charged patients for services that they need just to stay alive in most cases off the hook, and says, well, everything you've done we're going to erase and not deal with, and we're just going to let the government take over. I think the heavier lift would be actually addressing how we create more equity within the healthcare system we have today.
Okay, so if you waved a magic wand and you were the king or queen, what would you do?
Well, I'd start with creating a price cap for insulin. That's been my...
Yes.
I've been beating that drum for the last 3 years,
yes.
And that's important.
And quite successfully.
Well, so far so good, but we have a long ways to go. But I'm very interested in figuring out how we leverage the insurance system and the healthcare system overall that we have today by creating more of a bottom up as opposed to top down approach. Today, it feels like insurers dictate everything and are very disconnected from the communities they serve. And the most successful healthcare models are those that deal with individuals on a personalized basis. So models that allow for people with chronic conditions to see a coach that can manage all of their doctor's appointments, creating community clinics where people are able to access their dentist, their pediatrician, and their general practitioner all in the same space, so a family can visit a doctor, visit all their doctors at the same time, making sure that as we're thinking about healthcare, we're thinking about cultural idiosyncrasies that sometimes prevent people from accessing the care they need, and making sure that we're thinking of patients as people who lead whole lives, who have to deal with transportation, with language issues at times, and that we're not just thinking about patients as numbers, and really working, I guess, from the bottom up to revamp healthcare as opposed to starting from the top down.
Okay, but now wouldn't you be looking at incredible costs? I mean, you know, what you're saying sounds wonderful, but the cost of doing that and the cost to the businesses that are currently operating, you know, how would that work?
I think what we've seen happen in some localities where insurers have taken on creative approaches to create incentives for preventative healthcare. So how do we make sure that people are interested in seeing their dentist at least twice a year to get their cleaning, so that they don't end up with, I don't know, dental surgery needs type of thing. So are there ways that employers or the insurance markets can incentivize the kind of preventative care that we know lowers care overall? So if you're able to get free transportation to see your general practitioner at least once a year for a healthcare checkup, would a person be more likely to go? I don't know the answer, but I suspect that the data would show that if you make it as easy as possible and you incentivize people to get the care they need, it's actually less expensive to have preventative care in the mix as opposed to forcing people to then deal with catastrophic incidents down the road. So I think that's a way that you save costs. But it is true that healthcare overall has seen prices inflate in a way that no other market has, and we have to start getting at why that is. And for me, it starts with a conversation on prescription drugs, but certainly there are all sorts of other areas where you could have the same debate as to why costs are so high.
Okay, let's take a break. More with Senator Yvanna Cancela after this.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Come visit Design Outdoor's store and backyard to see our wide selection of fire pits, barbecues, and pizza ovens, natural stone water features and fountains, and frost-proof pottery. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
One of the most psychologically damaging things parents can do to children in divorce
is disparage one another, which is why I can't believe I even have to make this commercial.
Half of your kids' genetics come from this person you're spewing hate about. Your children have the right to love you both, but more than that, they deserve to love themselves.
Marilyn York might be a men's rights divorce attorney, but this is for every selfish parent. Shut up!
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. A lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with State Senator Yvanna Cancela. She is the co-majority whip and represents District 10. We've got Resorts World opening up here. What is this going to mean for union members and the workers of Las Vegas with this brand new property?
Well, it's in the heart of the district I'm honored to represent, so I'm very excited for the property to open. And I'm excited about what it means for the north end of the Strip, which has for a while struggled to gain its footing after the recession.
A long time.
Yes, but it'll be tremendous to have the convention center up and running with its new expansion. We'll have Resorts World online within the next year and a half, 2 years. So I think it'll be great for the Strip. It'll be great for Southern Nevada because it represents, I think the last figure I saw was about 4,500 jobs within the property. And I know the company was in negotiations with the Culinary Union. I'm not sure whether or not they finally signed an agreement to allow for workers there to be represented by the union, but I suspect that I certainly will support any effort I can to make sure that those jobs are union jobs. And we've seen a number of union construction jobs at the property, and I'm excited about hopefully having Resorts World be a catalyst for more interest in tourism at the north end of the Strip.
Okay, so that obviously leads us to the Sahara. Have you had any conversations with Alex Murillo, the owner of the Sahara?
I have not, no.
Have you been to the property since it's changed ownership?
One of my favorites on the Strip. I live close to the Sahara, and it's one of my go-to Strip properties. Because I like that you can feel it still has an old Vegas vibe to it, but still really has been totally modernized and is, well, for me, selfishly, it's close to my house, so I like being there.
Have you been to the Grand Sierra in Reno, which is the other property that he owns?
Yeah.
Because to me, he recreated that property in a way that is even better than Kurt Krikorian built in 1978, which was an incredible property back then.
Yeah. Well, he's done a lot of good. He's certainly invested quite a bit into bringing the property into a new era. So, yeah.
The Drew, is that part of your district as
It
well?
is, yes.
Okay, so it seems like with Bobby Baldwin being announced as president, here's the guy that built City Center, that this property is really moving ahead. Is that the sense you get as well?
Well, it's mostly done construction-wise. Now it's just a matter of having it come online, I guess. So, but yeah, it'll be very exciting.
Have you toured the property recently?
I've not, no.
Because I mean, up until recently, it was, it had been stripped of everything inside by Carl Icahn.
Right.
And so, you don't know if the new ownership has put in any furnishings at this point in
I
time?
don't know, but they've certainly benefited from having the outside structure mostly done, and the property's been maintained thanks to the county commission, which said if this property is going to sit vacant, at least the outside has to be maintained and it can't fall below code. So they really inherited what is going to be, I think, a tremendous property.
And do you have any idea of when that property is going to open?
I don't, I'm sorry.
Do you have any idea of how many people will be working there?
I don't, but it's large.
It's a huge property. It's almost 4,000 rooms, I believe.
Yeah, I suspect it'll be a couple thousand folks that they'll need there.
And then the expansion of the convention center you referred to here, that's pretty extraordinary. And then once the expansion is done, they're going to go back and rework the entire property.
Yes, which is excellent and much needed because we need to make sure that our convention center competes with newer spaces that have come online in cities like Orlando and Boston. And our convention center has to be world class if we're going to continue to attract the size and scope of conventions that we're bringing in.
Have you had a look at the plans for the tunnels that the boring company is going to be drilling for their transportation underneath the convention center to move people around?
I haven't seen the plans, but I've read about the progress the project is making, and I'm hopeful that I'll get to tour the space and follow along with the work they're doing. It's pretty exciting that that's happening in Las Vegas.
Yeah, to say the least. Do you think that, I mean, if it's successful, that could be, elaborated on around the city? Well, not the city, but the county, obviously, too.
Yeah, I mean, potentially. I think that if it's successful, folks will want to see it grow, but it has to make sense for the way that our plans for future development are being thought out. And I think having additional transportation that decongest our highways and streets is a good thing, but it's got to be thoughtful and really connect people to where they actually need to go, not just to serve our tourist population, which is important, but doesn't necessarily capture folks coming to work or going to different parts of the valley.
Yeah, but I mean, to get a system like that, I think will be incredibly difficult because the valley is so vast. The Radius Stadium, you excited about that?
I'm excited that it'll be done soon. It's going to be a great asset to have here in Las Vegas. And I'm a lifelong Dolphins fan. I will always be a Dolphins fan, but I'm certainly going to cheer on the Vegas Raiders as much as I can.
And what do you think it's going to do for the city?
Well, I think it's going to bring in people who maybe weren't thinking of coming to Vegas, but will now come to Vegas and watch their team play the Raiders. I think it's going to bring in lots of Raiders fans from California. It'll bring in tons of events that today we miss out on because we don't have the seating for of major artists. Like I'm hopeful that we end up with a Beyonce tour stop the next time she comes on tour. But I think it'll be great, and I'm hopeful that it ends up being everything it was promised to be.
You know, it's funny, of all the interviews we've done today, that's the second time somebody has mentioned Beyonce in the Raiders Stadium. I think the word is going out. Beyonce, please come to Las Vegas.
Yes.
We really need you here.
Yes.
Senator, thank you so much for doing this as always. We really appreciate you being here, and continued success.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back.
Nevada Newsmakers tapings in Las Vegas are brought to you by the Las Vegas Metro Chamber of Commerce.
A bird's eye captures its surroundings at different heights. At Brian Culpa Photography, we can make your imagination soar over buildings, parks, cityscapes, and beyond. Brian's images tell the story and get the job done. If you need a new perspective to tell your story, contact Brian today. Brian Culpa Photography. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Finish. Dad? Are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this. Wow! This stuff is great! People are gonna love it! Yes. Yes, they will.
Can't do it. Stupid, like my mom.
We can't do anything at Mommy's because you won't pay child support.
Dad said you cheated, and he's not even sure he's my dad.
Mommy said you left both of us, so she isn't gonna let me see you. I look just like my father.
I'm divorce attorney Marilyn York, and I may represent men, but hate has no gender, only casualties. Please, stop sacrificing your children in your war against your ex.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
As always, you can watch Nevada Newsmakers 24 hours a day at nevadanewsmakers.com, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you on the next broadcast.